to Raise Sensation. I'm your host, Dan, and in this episode, I'm going to be taking a look at the book, The Making of King Kong. All right, so when I was a kid, I absolutely loved dinosaurs. And wow, seeing King Kong when I was a kid blew my little mind. Here was a great action movie. I mean, just so exciting to me as a kid. The music, the dinosaurs, Kong. I mean, it was all just overwhelming. And in those days, in the 60s, they used to have like the $1 million movie was what it was called on the channel I saw it on. All the local stations used to have little things they called their movie selections and stuff. And the one I would watch was the $1 million movie. And what they would do is their $1 million movie, you had 3 chances to watch. You could watch it on Friday afternoon, Saturday, or Sunday. And when it was King Kong or something else I really loved, I watched it all 3 times. If I could. I didn't get to rule the television when I was younger, but I would watch it as many times as I could. And some of the other channels would show it occasionally and stuff too. I have easily seen this movie over 100 times, far and away more than any other film. I just love it. This book came out in 1975. This is not my original edition. I actually think that I don't know what happened to my original edition. It got lost in one of my many moves or down. I don't think it was downsized, but I don't know what happened to it. I bought this one used. This is in not good shape at all, but this is very expensive to get this. A lot of people were very nostalgic. This was, the first major work on Kong. There's a lot of stuff that has come out since. There's better looking books. There's books that cover Kong, and do a better job photograph wise. But at the time, this was just a tremendous. I mean, I can't explain how great it was to people who weren't there, who got this. This was just amazing. The only book that even came close was the Ray Harryhausen scrapbook for me when I was younger. It goes into all the behind the scenes, Show to Shaq and Cooper, and getting this moving forward with this movie. They were documentary filmmakers. They convinced the studio to bring this movie to life. When they were originally talking about Kong, I'm not going to go in too much into the making of it because there's been so many film documentaries. YouTube is full of them. There are some fantastic documentaries on the Blu-ray of King Kong, and I recommend you see them all, explaining the lives of these 2 great showmen. I'm not sure that all the stories they tell are true. I don't know how well they were checked up on or anything, and they were showmen. They were making these documentaries, but they were kind of like somewhat fake documentaries. I mean, when they were talking about originally doing King Kong, they were talking about having trying to figure out if they could have a real gorilla fight a Komodo dragon for the Kong vs. Dinosaur stuff. Thank God they had seen Willis O'Brien's The Lost World and said, hey, that looks like the thing to do. And so, that's what ended up making it. But this was the place. I mean, there had been a really good issue of Famous Monsters, and there had been a couple other articles after that. The Famous Monsters article on King Kong was almost a full issue. That was my first big introduction to the behind-the-scenes stuff, and then there was some other articles I read in some other magazines too. But this book was a godsend for people who, like me, just could not get enough of King Kong. Now, some of the photographs in this book are really good. Some of them are just, basically Xeroxes, it looks like. Including that, but all this behind the scenes stuff is fun. And but what I really wanted was when they get to the Willis O'Brien part. There's Willis O'Brien, and so they're getting to the special effects. That's from The Lost World, the movie that they saw that convinced them that O'Brien was the guy to bring the dinosaurs to life. There's another shot from The Lost World. And then it goes into the production. This is Willis O'Brien had been trying to get this movie called Creation off the ground, which was some people discover an abandoned lost civilization, and there's dinosaurs all around this ruins of this lost civilization. But he couldn't get the special effects budget down to where they would make the film, and some of the work he did on that though ended up, some of the models and stuff ended up being used in King Kong. These are all more things from Creation. There's shows you the size of one of the models for King Kong, not the Kong. And some of the sets were used for The Most Dangerous Game, a film version of a famous short story that has been filmed a million times in different variations. The Most Dangerous Game, where some rich eccentric has decided he wants to hunt humans, and then here we go. Here's some great photos from the movie, which is what I had wanted to see. It has some stuff about how they did some of the special effects scenes. Quite frankly, not that much. There are some really good special effects books that have come out since that really go into detail on how they did a lot of the effects that are really good. Again, at the time, this book was just unbelievable and wonderful to have. These pre-production paintings are great. Bunch of people who are involved behind the scenes. Another shot of one of the stand-in models, the articulated models. Oh, and this has been famously reproduced many times. Very dynamic. And the wild thing about it is the scene in the movie is really just as dynamic. There's the cave. There he is fighting the reptile in the cave. It's got flippers or little feet. Great stuff. You can see this is not. So, it's one of those things where nowadays there's some of the information in here is available in a better format, but in my heart of hearts, this is still a fantastic book to get. This original book, like I said, this isn't my original copy. I had to replace it. It wasn't in very good shape, and it was still more money than I probably should have paid for it. And the thing is, it had a fairly big print run from what I remember reading. Empire State Building. The elevated train scene. Then it covers Son of Kong, the incredibly rushed sequel. This was very hard for me to see originally. I didn't play on TV nearly as much as the original. I don't know if they were asking too much money for the TV rights and so studios passed on it, or whether they really just thought, oh, this is so bad, no one's going to want to see this. And of course, I was dying to see it. Here's a bunch of publicity photos done as full page. I really hated seeing these cut out things that weren't from the movie. Then they have all these in the appendix. They cover all these movies that are just barely related for various reasons somehow. So terrific book. This was a this original one. I think I forgot to mention Orville Goldner and George Turner worked on this together, this was a reissue that was done, reprinting, and expanded and revised by Michael Price with Douglas Turner, not George, and an introduction by Ray Bradbury and Ray Harryhausen, two, of course, famous fans of the movie. They would have told you they owed their careers to the movie. This book, some of the reproductions of photos are better done in here than they were in the original. They're smaller reproduced, which I don't like. Most of the stuff that's been added to this is more of this stuff where it's not really that closely related. It's more like, maybe this has, it's just connecting some dots that don't need to be connected for the book. So a lot of people don't like this added stuff. I don't mind it. It's still got the original information in it. And you get some other weird films covered, for better or worse. It's just unnecessary. And there it starts. This starts the original book there. It looks like it has less of the photos and illustrations in it. Of course, by this time, a lot of them had been printed up in other places. So maybe, and it also has some photos that weren't in the original too in here. So it's a mixed bag. You always want, when you get a book like this, you always want there to be more of what made you love the original. And I would say that laundry list of very barely connected films is not some of it. They've added other films to the back here, some of which it's good to have. So, some pages that aren't necessary. Some photos were dropped, some were added. This one is much cheaper to get. And there's actually been yet another edition put out, a third edition with even more pages. I haven't seen that. I didn't buy it. Apparently, it's in even smaller format, so the pictures are even smaller. And some people say there's even less pictures in it. And it's got it's 300 pages. And how many is this? This expanded edition was like 255. So that one's got over 300. So that's another 50 some pages. I'm not sure what else they added to it. One But what I'd really like to see is, and you know, actually, there's this book, this series, and unfortunately, this is the only one I have that's not in my storage right now. So I only have volume 3. I did a video on this. This Ray Harryhausen, Master of the Magics by Mike Hankin. This is what I would like an entire book on Kong to be like. You know, all these big, glossy pages of photos and stuff. And the fact is that because there would have been no Ray Harryhausen without King Kong, there is a chapter in volume 1 of this that covers Kong that is absolutely great. And I just wish Hankin would have done an entire book on Kong. That would have been perfect. You know, I mean, he'd have to be covering most of the same stuff that's in that book, but visually, this is much more what I would have liked to have seen in a Kong book. Look at that. Anyway, that's all for now. Thanks for watching.